The quiet ones. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with the usual mix of languages, clicks, and harmonics that represented the 17 major species of the known galaxy. Towering, crystalline beings stood beside slug-like creatures that oozed wisdom from every pore. Flying entities with gossamer wings shared space with hulking rock-based life forms that communicated through vibrations in the floor. At the center of this magnificent assembly sat the Council of Voices, the governing body that had maintained peace and order for over 3 millennia. Today's session, however, carried an undercurrent of amusement that rippled through the vast hall like waves on a cosmic shore. Ambassador Crixtal of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his seat, his 7-foot frame casting long shadows across the polished floor. His species had ruled vast sectors of space for centuries, their military might unquestioned, their technology advanced beyond most civilizations' dreams. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Fellow council members, Crixtal began, his 3 eyes scanning the assembly with barely concealed contempt. We gathered today to discuss the latest request for membership from the species that calls itself human. The word dripped from his mouth like something distasteful. Chorus of chittering, humming, and what could only be described as cosmic laughter filled the chamber. The humans had been petitioning for council membership for nearly 50 Earth years. Each request met with increasing derision from the established powers. These creatures, Crixtal continued, his central eye focusing on a holographic display, showing Earth and its meager solar system, emerge from a backwater world on the outer rim of an insignificant galaxy arm. They possess no remarkable technology, no extraordinary abilities, and no resources we cannot obtain more efficiently elsewhere. A delegate from the Crystalline Consortium chimed in with a sound like wind through crystal caves. Their military consists of crude chemical rockets and primitive nuclear weapons. Our children's toys are more sophisticated. More laughter rippled through the assembly. The humans had indeed seemed laughably primitive when first contact had been established. Their fastest ships took months to travel distances that most council species could cover in days. Their weapons were based on explosive force rather than the elegant energy manipulation that marked truly advanced civilizations. Ambassador Crixtal raised one of his forearms for silence. The humans have sent yet another diplomatic vessel to plead their case. The ship Harmony approaches our space as we speak, carrying their usual delegation of hopeful primitives. On the massive viewing screen that dominated one wall of the chamber, the human vessel appeared. Compared to the sleek living ships of the biomechanical Vorten or the reality-bending craft of the dimensional weavers, the Harmony looked like a metal box with engines attached. Its hull bore scorch marks from meteorite impacts, and its design seemed based more on function than the artistic beauty that marked truly civilized species. Perhaps, Crixtal said, his voice taking on a dangerous edge, it is time we sent these humans a message they cannot misunderstand. They have been told, repeatedly, that they are not welcome among civilized species, yet they persist in their pathetic attempts to gain our attention. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching the massive space stations and impossible architecture of the Council worlds grow larger through the viewport. After 15 years in the diplomatic corps, she had made this journey 7 times, each with the same hope that humanity might finally be accepted into the galactic community. Captain, her communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. Sarah nodded, straightening her dress uniform. She had learned the hard way that first impressions mattered immensely in galactic politics. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Crixtal's imposing figure. Behind him, Sarah could see the opulent interior of a ship that was clearly designed to intimidate. Human vessel Harmony, Crixtal's voice carried, clearly through the translation systems. You are not welcome in council space. Turn back immediately. Sarah took a deep breath. This was always the hardest part. Ambassador Crixtal, with respect, we are here under the provisions of the Galactic Contact Accords. We request safe passage to present our case to the full council. Crixtal's 3 eyes seemed to narrow simultaneously. Your case has been heard and rejected 7 times. Your species offers nothing of value to the council. You are weak, primitive, and insignificant. Return to your small world and trouble us no more. Ambassador, Sarah said, her voice remaining steady despite the insult. Humanity has much to offer. Our scientific progress in the last century has been remarkable. Our cultural diversity could enrich the galactic community. We seek only the chance to prove ourselves worthy partners in— Enough, Crystal cut her off. You speak of worthiness while traveling in that pathetic excuse for a starship. You claim scientific progress while using technology we discarded millennia ago. You are insects pretending to be eagles. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. Her crew looked to her expectantly, but she had no immediate answers. This was worse than previous encounters. The contempt in Crystal's voice suggested something had changed. Captain, her tactical officer reported, we're detecting multiple ships moving to intercept our position. Sarah felt her stomach drop. In all their previous diplomatic missions, they had been escorted to Council space and then escorted out. They had never faced active hostility. How many ships, she asked. 12 Zephyrian destroyers, Captain. They're not responding to our hails. Through the viewport, Sarah could see the sleek, predatory shapes of the approaching warships. Each one was easily 3 times the size of the Harmony, and packed with weapons that could reduce their diplomatic vessel to cosmic dust in seconds. All stations prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace, Sarah ordered. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them the situation has escalated beyond normal diplomatic protocols. But even as her crew scrambled to comply, Sarah knew they were too late. The Zephyrian ships had positioned themselves in a perfect intercept pattern. There would be no escape. Ambassador Crystal watched the tactical display with satisfaction as his ships surrounded the human vessel. The other council members had gathered to observe what he had termed a practical demonstration of proper galactic hierarchy. The humans will surrender, predicted Vexnara, his military commander. Their ship has no weapons capable of damaging our shields. Crystal nodded. Then we will make an example of them. Let every species in the galaxy understand the price of presumption. The Harmony shuddered under the impact of the first warning shots. Captain Chen gripped her command chair as the lights flickered and damage reports flooded in from all sections. Shields are holding, her tactical officer reported, but they won't last long under this kind of firepower. Sarah opened a channel to the Zephyrian flagship. Ambassador Crystal, we are a diplomatic vessel operating under galactic law. This attack is a violation of— There is no law that protects insignificant insects, came the reply. You will surrender your vessel and submit to judgment, or you will be destroyed. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were good people, scientists and diplomats who had dedicated their lives to the dream of galactic cooperation. They didn't deserve to die for the crime of hoping humanity could be more than it appeared. All hands, she announced over the ship's intercom. Abandon ship. Repeat, all hands abandon ship. Launch all escape pods immediately. As alarms blared throughout the Harmony, Sarah remained at her post, transmitting everything she could to the emergency beacon that would carry word back to Earth. The galaxy needed to know what had happened here. Humanity needed to understand that their dreams of peaceful integration had died in the cold vacuum between stars. The final salvo from the Zephyrian destroyers turned the Harmony into an expanding cloud of debris and superheated gas. Of the 43 souls who had journeyed hopefully toward the galactic core, only 8 escape pods managed to reach minimum safe distance before the ship's destruction. Captain Sarah Chen was not among the survivors. Back on Earth, Director Marcus Webb stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, reading the report from the Harmony's final transmission. Around him, the leaders of Earth's various space agencies and military organizations absorbed the implications in stunned silence. They killed them, said General Patricia Hayes, her voice barely above a whisper. They destroyed a diplomatic vessel in cold blood. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the Advanced Technology Division, leaned forward in her chair. The transmission was clear. Ambassador Krixtal called us insects. They don't see us as a species worthy of basic rights. Webb nodded grimly. For 50 years, Earth had played the role of the eager supplicant, hoping to earn acceptance through patience and persistence. They had hidden their true capabilities, presenting themselves as harmless seekers of knowledge and cooperation. The galaxy had seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. How long before the survivors reach safe space? Webb asked. The escape pod should make it to the neutral zone in approximately 6 days, replied Admiral Lisa Park. Assuming the Zephyrians don't decide to hunt them down as well. Webb walked to the massive display screen that showed the current disposition of human assets throughout known space. To outside observers, it looked pathetically small. A few dozen ships scattered across local star systems, research stations on nearby worlds, and the home fleet defending Earth itself. What the display didn't show were the 1,000 ships hidden in the dark spaces between stars, the weapons platforms concealed within asteroid fields, and the technological marvels that humanity had developed in secret over the past century. The galaxy thought humans were primitive because humans had wanted them to think that. Gentlemen, ladies, Webb said, his voice carrying the weight of decision. For 50 years we have sought peace. We have endured insults, rejection, and condescension because we believed that patience would eventually win us acceptance. He turned to face the assembled leaders. That hope died with Captain Chen and her crew. Dr. Rodriguez stood up. Director, are you suggesting we abandon diplomatic efforts entirely? Webb's expression was stone. I'm suggesting that diplomacy has failed. The galaxy has made their position clear. They see us as insects to be crushed whenever we become inconvenient. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Perhaps it's time we reminded them that even insects can bite. General Hayes leaned forward. You're talking about activating the Deep Fleet, Webb nodded. I'm talking about showing the galaxy what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. He gestured to the display screen. They think we're primitive because we let them think that. They believe we're helpless because we chose to appear helpless. They've convinced themselves that humanity poses no threat to their established order. And now? Asked Admiral Park. Webb's smile was cold as winter on Pluto. Now they're about to learn the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. As the meeting broke up and the various military leaders began implementing protocols that had been theoretical for decades, Webb remained behind, staring at the tactical display. The galaxy had made their choice when they murdered Captain Chen and her crew. They had declared that humanity would never be accepted as equals. Very well. If they could not earn the galaxy's respect through peace, they would command it through strength. The sleeping giant had been awakened, and the universe was about to discover why humanity had always been the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just hadn't known it yet. The awakening. Storm 3 months had passed since the destruction of the Harmony, and the galaxy had already moved on to other concerns. The Zephyrian Empire continued its expansion into the Outer Rim territories. The Crystal Consortium pursued their never-ending quest for perfect harmonic resonance, and the various council races maintained their careful balance of power and politics. The humans, as expected, had seemingly vanished back into the obscurity of their distant solar system. A few scattered reports spoke of increased activity around Earth, but nothing that warranted serious attention from civilized species. After all, what could primitives with chemical rockets possibly accomplish that would matter to beings who bent space and time to their will? Ambassador Krixtal stood in his private chambers aboard the dreadnought Eternal Glory, reviewing reports from across Zephyrian space. The destruction of the human diplomatic vessel had been noted in official records as pest control and quickly forgotten. More pressing matters demanded attention. The ongoing negotiations with the Vorthan Collective, territorial disputes with the Quantum Shepherds, and the eternal challenge of maintaining order across an empire that spanned 12 star systems. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Krixtal activated the holographic display, expecting routine reports from his fleet commanders. Instead, he found himself looking at the concerned face of General Vexnara, his military chief of staff. Ambassador, Vexnara said without preamble. "We have a situation developing in Sector 7. Long-range sensors are detecting anomalous readings near the human home system." Crystal's three eyes focused intently on the display. "Define anomalous." "Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases, sir. And they're big. Very big." The ambassador felt a flutter of unease, though he quickly suppressed it. "How big?" Vexnara's expression grew troubled. "Our analysts estimate at least 200 distinct signatures, each one roughly equivalent to a Council-class battleship in terms of raw energy output." Crystal laughed, though it sounded forced even to his own ears. "Impossible. The humans possess no technology capable of generating such readings. Your sensors are malfunctioning." "That's what I thought initially," Vexnara replied. "But we've confirmed the readings with 3 separate deep space monitoring stations. Ambassador, there's something else. The signatures are moving." The display shifted to show a tactical overview of local space. Crystal stared in disbelief as hundreds of red dots emerged from the vicinity of Earth's solar system, spreading outward in perfect formation like petals opening on some cosmic flower. "Where are they going?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everywhere," Vexnara replied grimly. "Current projections show them heading toward every major Zephyrian installation within 50 light-years. They'll reach our outer colonies in approximately 6 standard days." Admiral James Harrison stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship, Retribution, watching the starfield shift and blur as his fleet emerged from hyperspace. Around him, the bridge crew worked with the quiet efficiency that came from months of intensive training and preparation. They had drilled for this moment, planned for it, dreamed of it. Now it was finally here. "All ships report successful jump. Completion," announced his communications officer. "Fleet formation is holding steady." Harrison nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the disposition of his forces. 200 ships had departed Earth space 3 days ago, each one a masterpiece of human engineering that had been hidden from galactic observation for decades. The galaxy thought humans were limited to crude chemical rockets and primitive nuclear weapons. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. "Target analysis?" he asked his tactical officer. "Zephyrian colony world Kethmar, population approximately 2 million. Orbital defense platforms appear to be standard Council specification energy shields and particle beam arrays. 3 patrol vessels in system, destroyer class." Harrison smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had become complacent, secure in their belief that no species in the galaxy possessed the technology or the will to challenge them directly. They were about to receive a very painful education. "Open a channel to the colony," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the concerned face of a Zephyrian administrator. Behind him, Harrison could see the elegant spires and crystalline structures that marked Zephyrian architecture. "Unknown vessels," the administrator said, his voice carrying the automatic authority that all Zephyrians seem to possess. "You are in violation of Empire space. Identify yourselves immediately and prepare to be escorted from this system." Harrison stepped forward, making sure his face was clearly visible on the transmission. "I am Admiral James Harrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. This system is now under human jurisdiction." The Zephyrian's 3 eyes widened in what Harrison recognized as shock. "Human? That's impossible. Your species lacks the technology for interstellar warfare." "Apparently," Harrison replied calmly, "you were misinformed." On worlds throughout Zephyrian space, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets materialized seemingly from nowhere, their ships unlike anything in the galactic databases. Where Council races favored elegant curves and artistic beauty in their vessel designs, human ships were angular, functional, and unmistakably predatory. They looked like what they were: instruments of war built by a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the resistance cell she had organized in the ruins of Kepler Station, watching intelligence reports flow in from across the galaxy. Her escape pod had been one of the 8 that survived the Harmony's destruction. But instead of returning to Earth, she had chosen to remain in the borderlands, organizing a network of human expatriates and sympathizers who could provide intelligence on alien activities. Now, as reports of human fleet actions reached her makeshift headquarters, she felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Pride that humanity had finally revealed its true strength. Sorrow that it had taken the murder of her friends and crewmates to make it happen. "Captain," one of her operatives called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Harrison." Sarah activated the secure channel, and Harrison's familiar face appeared on her screen. They had served together years ago, back when the galaxy still seemed like a place where humanity might find peaceful acceptance. "Sarah," Harrison said, his voice carrying genuine warmth despite the circumstances. "It's good to see you alive, James," she replied. "I have to say this is quite a surprise. When did Earth decide to stop playing nice?" Harrison's expression darkened. "The moment they murdered your crew and declared us unworthy of basic dignity. The council races wanted to treat us like insects." His smile was predatory. "They're about to learn what happens when you step on the wrong bug." Back in council space, emergency sessions were being called as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The humans, dismissed as primitive and harmless for over half a century, had revealed capabilities that defied everything the established powers thought they knew about Earth's technological development. The crystal. Consortium's harmonic analysis indicated that human ships were using some form of space-folding technology that was decades ahead of anything in the Council databases. The Vorthan Collective's biomechanical sensors detected energy signatures that suggested matter-antimatter reactions controlled with impossible precision. Even the reality-bending dimensional weavers admitted they could not understand how humans had developed such advanced stealth capabilities. Ambassador Krikstal stood before the emergency assembly, his usual confidence shaken by the reports streaming in from across Zephyrian space. 12 colonies had fallen silent. 16 patrol fleets had been destroyed or disabled. The humans weren't just attacking, they were systematically dismantling the infrastructure that had taken the Zephyrian Empire centuries to build. "How?" he asked the assembled experts and military leaders. "How did we miss this level of technological development?" Dr. Zethria, the Empire's chief intelligence analyst, spoke with the cautious tone of someone delivering news no one wanted to hear. "Preliminary analysis suggests the humans have been deliberately concealing their true capabilities for decades. Every ship they showed us, every technology they demonstrated, appears to have been carefully selected to maintain the illusion of primitive development." "You're saying they've been lying to us for 50 years? Krikstal's voice carried dangerous undertones. "Not lying, exactly," Dr. Zethria replied carefully. "More like selective truth-telling. They showed us what they wanted us to see while hiding everything that might have changed our assessment of their threat level." General Vexnara stepped forward, his expression grim. "Ambassador, we need to discuss our response options. The human fleets are advancing on 3 separate fronts, and our intelligence suggests this is only the beginning. If they're capable of fielding 200 ships without straining their resources." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood the implications. If humanity could deploy such forces while maintaining the pretense of primitive capability, how many more ships might they have hidden in the dark spaces between stars? Admiral Harrison received the surrender request from Zephyrian High Command at 800 hours ship time. The message was formal, dignified, and utterly desperate. The empire that had dismissed humanity as insignificant insects was now begging for terms. Harrison read the surrender offer twice before forwarding it to Earth Command. The Zephyrians were offering territorial concessions, technology sharing, and even council membership for humanity in exchange for an immediate ceasefire. Director Webb's response came back within hours. "Terms rejected. Continue operations as planned." Harrison smiled as he forwarded the message to his fleet commanders. The galaxy had spent 50 years teaching humanity that strength was the only currency that mattered in interstellar politics. Now they were learning that lesson themselves. On Earth, crowds gathered in city squares and public spaces to watch the live broadcasts from the war zones. For generations, humans had dreamed of taking their place among the stars as equals. They had endured rejection, contempt, and ultimately violence in pursuit of that dream. Now, as human fleets carved through the space lanes that had been closed to them, those dreams were finally being realized. Not through diplomacy or patient negotiation, but through the application of overwhelming force by the species the galaxy had dismissed as harmless primitives. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in her laboratory, watching her life's work unfold across the galaxy. The ship's weapons and technologies that were reshaping the balance of galactic power had been developed in secret over decades of careful research and development. Humanity had used the galaxy's contempt as camouflage, allowing their enemies to underestimate them while they built the tools that would ensure their survival. "How long do you think it will take?" her assistant asked, gesturing toward the tactical displays showing human fleets advancing across dozens of star systems. Rodriguez considered the question carefully. "To win the war? We've already won. The moment they decided we were too weak to matter, they lost any chance of stopping us." She paused, watching as another Zephyrian stronghold fell to human forces. "The real question is how long it will take them to understand that this was never about conquest." "What do you mean?" Rodriguez smiled, remembering Captain Sarah Chen and the 42 other souls who had died believing in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. This was about respect, about proving that humanity deserves a place at the table not as supplicants, but as equals. She gestured toward the displays, showing human ships establishing new defensive positions throughout former Zephyrian space. They could have given us that respect freely. Instead, they chose to teach us that in this galaxy, respect is something you take. As reports continued to flow in from across the battlefront, one thing became increasingly clear to observers throughout Council space. Humanity had never been the weak, primitive species they had pretended to be. They were predators who had chosen to hide among sheep until the moment came to reveal their true nature. The galaxy had mocked humanity one too many times. Now they would learn why sleeping giants should never be awakened, and why the most dangerous species in the universe was often the one that appeared the most harmless. The war had begun, but it would not end until every species in the galaxy understood one simple truth. Humans were not insects to be stepped on. They were apex predators, who had simply been waiting for the right moment to hunt.